Hello everyone, I hope that you all are fit and fine, and let me tell you that I am completely fine as well. In this video we are going to start learning about the income tax law. In the previous video we had seen the responsibility of the government to develop the nation. To fulfill that responsibility, the government needs two things, correct? Power and money. Money comes from three sources, and the source that we are more concerned about is taxes. The government collects tax from the people. There are two types of taxes, direct tax and indirect tax. We also saw the difference between direct tax and indirect tax in the previous video. Now we are more concerned about direct tax because the subject that we are going to study is income tax. Okay, then we also saw the power quotient. Where does the power come from? The power comes from the constitution. However, the constitution also places a restriction via article 265 which states that no tax can be collected except with the help of law. So now who can frame the law? The constitution only has given the power to frame the law via article 246, okay, in which there is seventh schedule. The seventh schedule has three lists, correct? And in the first list, which is the union list, okay, which gives central government the power to make the law, there is entry number 82, which contains income tax on income other than agricultural income. Hence, the central government via the parliament has the power to make the laws on income tax on the income other than agricultural income. Hence, by using this power, the central government had passed the Income Tax Act 1961. Okay, and it was also passed with the same process only. Members of parliament will bring the bill will be passed in Lok Sabha, then in Rajya Sabha, and then it will become an act after the president signs the particular bill. So this Income Tax Act came into force from 1/4/1962. Hence, from 1/4/1962, that is 1st of April onwards, this act was implemented in the entire country including Jammu and Kashmir. Sir, so before 1/4/1962 there was no Income Tax Act? Answer is no. Before 1/4/1962 there was the old Income Tax Act which was scrapped and the new Income Tax Act had been introduced. Okay, so Income Tax Act is the major source of income tax law. Now you would have heard me using Income Tax Act, you would have heard using income tax law. Now are both the same? Is income tax law equal to Income Tax Act? Are both the words the same? The answer is no. Income tax law is the much wider term, whereas Income Tax Act is just a part of the income tax law. Okay, so income tax law has many parts, or you can say many components. Of all the components, Income Tax Act is one of the component. However, it is the most major component of the income tax law. You get my point? Now let's come to the notes. Components of income tax law. Okay, so I want you to write in the top of the page itself that income tax law is not equal to Income Tax Act, because Income Tax Act is only a part of the income tax law. Fine. Now, so it is the first and most major part of the income tax law. Income Tax Act was passed in the Parliament in 1961 and it came into force from 1/4/1962. Okay. Now let's talk more about the Income Tax Act. This Income Tax Act contains chapters, sections and schedules. Okay. Chapters means what? Chapter means nothing but a group of sections. Chapter means what? Nothing but a group of section. Sections are only the main part of the law, and section only contain all the information that is contained in the law. The Income Tax Act has sections from section number 1 to section number 298. Does it mean that there are 298 sections in the Income Tax Act? Answer is no. In between, certain sections were removed, in between some certain sections are additionally added, and the numbers need not be the same absolute number itself. The numbering can be different also, that as and when we go forward to read the law, we will be able to understand. Hence, section number 1 to section 298 does not mean that the Income Tax Act has 298 sections. Okay. Then the Act also contains schedules which contain some additional information. Okay. Now let us come back to sections and focus more on sections, because that is only the most crucial part of the Income Tax Act. Okay. Now, how to read a section? Let's say you have to read something like this. If you find something like this, how should you read it? That is the question. So the section is read as follows. First part, it is called section. Okay. Second part is called subsection. Third part is called clause, and fourth part is called subclause. What is it? Section, subsection, clause, subclause. So how will you read this? You will read it as section 6, subsection 1, clause 2, subclause C. Section 6, subsection 1, clause 2, subclause C. So this will be read like this. This is the way to read a section. The first part of the section will be the section number. Okay. Within the section there will be subsection. Okay. The parts of the subsection are called clause. Okay. And the subparts of a clause are called subclause. Okay. Hence the entire naming will be section, subsection, clause, subclause. Now listen to me very carefully. Subsection are parts of the section that are related to each other. Subsections are part of the sections that are related to each other. But sometimes subsections are not at all related to each other. Sometimes subsections are not at all related to each other. For example, okay, section 2. In income tax there is a section called section 2. Section 2. Section 2 speaks about definitions. Section 2 speaks about definitions. There are various definitions contained in section 2. For example, definition of agriculture, okay, definition of income, there is even definition of India, okay, definition of person. There are various words for which the definition is given in section 2. Okay. Now if you see agriculture definition, it is totally different from income definition. Okay, agriculture definition, income definition, both are totally different. Hence, when we are reading section 2, we should not call the parts of the section as subsection. We should directly call the parts of the section as clause. Hence, if you see something like this, 2(1)(c), how will you read it? Generally, we would read this as section 2, subsection 1, clause C. Correct? However, since in section 2 the subsections are not related to each other, hence we will not call them as subsection, we will directly call them as clause. Okay. Hence, how to read this? This will be called section 2, clause 1, subclause C. Section 2, clause 1, subclause C. So generally, how to read a section? The first part or the major part is called section. Okay. Part of the section is called subsection. Part of the subsection is called clause, and part of the clause is called subclause. However, subsections are the ones which are linked with each other, or they are related to each other. Only when you read two subsections together, you will get the complete meaning of that particular section. However, it is not the case in case of certain sections. For example, definition section. In definition section, agriculture, income, India, person, all the different definition can be read separately. Both are not related. All of them are not related to each other. In such case, we cannot call them as subsection. We have to call them as what? We have to call them as clause directly. Hence, if you read something like this, it should be read as section 2, clause 1, subclause C. Okay. In your income tax syllabus, we will be reading only 3 major sections. that is section 2, section 10 and section 47, which all the three are part of your syllabus. In all the three, when I am taking the section, I will relate it to this particular page and I will link it. Okay, hence now you are new to income tax. For the first time you are reading all these concepts or learning them, hence no need to worry if you are not able to understand 100%. As and when we progress in the course, when we will be speaking the language of the act, we will be able to understand it even better with the help of examples. Okay, so don't worry if you are not able to understand 100%. Gradually you will get a grip of the income tax act. Okay, so now what I was telling, income tax act contains chapter, sections and schedules. Now we are talking about sections. Okay, in sections, the part of a section is called a subsection. Part of a section is called subsection. However, you should call it subsection only if it is related to each other. It means only when all the subsections are read together, it will give a complete meaning to the section. Okay, hence they are subsection. Next comes the clause. Okay, clauses are independent of each other. Means you can read two different clauses separately, both will have separate meanings. I gave you the example of section 2. Okay, subsection means you can have the example of section 6, section 6, section 5, all the other sections you have to call it like this only: section first, then subsection, then clause, then subclause. Fine. Now what is a clause? What is a subclause? Subclause is nothing but a sub part of a clause. Okay, so within a clause itself, if there are different points, those points will be called as subclause. Now let's come to the next aspect, which is proviso. What is a proviso? If a section wants to provide any exceptions or conditions, then such exceptions or condition are called proviso. Okay, proviso most probably will start with the word provided. If you read a section and there is a new paragraph in the section which start with the word provided, then you should understand that it is a proviso. Okay, when further we are studying, then we will be studying about provisos as well. Yeah, in certain sections you will see. Okay, so if all the points are there and the section wants to exclude something, it will say provided this particular section is not applicable to so and so. Okay, you get my point. Hence, if a section wants to exclude something, okay, or give an exception, it will start with the word provided. Such wordings are called proviso. Proviso. Next, section might also contain explanation. So when a section is initially released, there might be confusion amongst people as to how should we read the section. Hence, to give clarity, okay, or to give clarification, one second. Okay, to give clarification, the government will add, okay, explanation in a section. Explanation means what? Clarification. Explanation means what? Clarification. You get my point? One second. Okay. So very important, listen carefully, and if you are not able to understand 100%, you need not worry at all. As and when we progress in the course, you will be able to understand it clearly. So Income Tax Act contains chapter. The chapter contains sections. Okay, in the sections, the part of a section is called a subsection. Okay, part of a section is called subsection if it is related to each other. If subsections are not related to each other, you should not call them as subsection, you should directly call them as clause. Okay, so clause means it is independent of each other. Then sub part of a clause will be called subclause. Then the sections will also contain exceptions. The exceptions are called provisos. Provisos always start with the word provided. Okay, and there are certain clarifications which are called explanations. Okay, so this is about the Income Tax Act. Now we know about the Income Tax Act. Now this Income Tax Act, as I told you, was brought in 1961, correct? However, you would have heard from your friends that every year the Income Tax Act keep on changing. This act was brought in 1961, then how come it changes every single year? It changes because of Annual Finance Act. It changes because of Annual Finance Act, which is the second component of income tax law that we are going to study. Okay, Kanna, what is this Annual Finance Act? Annual Finance Act is nothing but an act passed in the Parliament. You would have heard about budget. You would have heard about budget. In the budget, the finance minister also brings a bill, okay, called finance bill. It is brought in the budget every single year in the month of February, and in the year of elections, this finance bill is brought 2 times. Okay, not even 1 time, it is brought 2 times. So every year, the finance minister brings a bill called finance bill. When this bill is passed by Lok Sabha, then this bill will go to Rajya Sabha. Okay, Lok Sabha, then Rajya Sabha. After Rajya Sabha, if it is passed in Rajya Sabha, it will go to the president. Okay, and when the president signs, the finance bill will become the Finance Act. Finance bill will become what? Finance Act. This Finance Act, what is the purpose of the Finance Act? The purpose of the Finance Act is to amend the Income Tax Act and give the tax rates. Amend means what, Kanna? Amend means to change. Amend means change. So what is the purpose of the Finance Act? It will change the Income Tax Act every year. Okay, so Finance Act will be introduced and it will change the Income Tax Act itself. The purpose of the Finance Act itself is changing the Income Tax Act. Okay, it will also change the other acts, but now we are concerned about Income Tax Act, and it will also give the tax rates. Fine. Now I told you that every year Finance Act is passed and it changes the Income Tax Act. However, can only the Finance Act change the Income Tax Act? Answer is no. It is not necessary that to change the Income Tax Act, the government has to compulsorily bring a Finance Act. It is not possible to bring a Finance Act whenever they want, because it is passed along with the budget. Okay, there is a certain date. However, if at all in between the year itself the government feels that it is necessary to change the Income Tax Act, then the government brings Taxation Law Amendment Act. Taxation Law Amendment Act, or it can be, there can be any other name also. Okay, generally it is called Taxation Law Amendment Act. Amendment is what I already told you. Amendment means to bring a change. Okay, now so I told you about Income Tax Act. Income Tax Act is only the main source of income tax law, or the main component of income tax law. It was passed in 1961 itself. However, every year the government keeps changing the Income Tax Act with the help of Annual Finance Act. Okay, so the finance minister presents the budget. A part of the budget is the finance bill. When the finance bill becomes the act, it becomes Finance Act, and when Finance Act is passed, okay, it will change the provisions of the Income Tax Act. However, can only the Finance Act change the Income Tax Act? Answer is no. Income Tax Act can also be changed with the help of Taxation Law Amendment Act. Taxation Law Amendment Act. Okay, or there can be any other name also. So it is not necessary that only the Finance Act should come to change the Income Tax Act. Fine. So this is the second component, which is the Annual Finance Act, which is passed every year, and in the year of election it is passed twice in the year. First, before the election, it is passed by the pre-election government, okay, and it will introduce only the necessary changes. The major changes are introduced after the election by the new formed government, which also passes another Finance Act. So in such years, you will have Finance Act number 2, 1, Finance Act number 2. There will be 2 Finance Acts. So that was about the Annual Finance Act. Now let us come to the third component of the income tax law, and that is the income tax rules. Component number 3, it is income tax rules. Who has the power to make the income tax rules? The power to make income tax rules lies with the CBDT, or the Central Board of Direct Taxes. There is a body called Central Board of Direct Taxes. It has the power to make the income tax rule, and this body, we fondly call them as the Income Tax Department. So in layman's language, CBDT is called Income Tax Department. However, we will be calling them as CBDT, that is Central Board of Direct Taxes. Now comes the question that where members of parliament are present, okay, and they are bringing in the laws, then what is the requirement of any other body to make rules for the Income Tax Act? The answer is that the members of parliament are actually handling many roles. Okay, for example, the finance ministry not only looks after the Income Tax Act, it also looks after the GST, it also looks after the customs, etc., etc. Hence, it cannot focus on each and every minute aspect of the income tax law. Hence, it delegates some responsibility to another body called CBDT, that is Central Board of Direct Taxes. Hence, when the Income Tax Act is made, the provisions are only major provisions and which are general in nature. However, the minute procedural aspects and the responsibility to collect the tax, responsibility to take forward the income tax department and to implement it inside the country, the responsibility lies with CBDT, that is Central Board of Direct Taxes. Okay, so CBDT has the power to make the rules. Why does it make the rules? To carry out the purpose of the act. Okay, so for example, now in the Income Tax Act, okay, it is given that business income should be taxed, agriculture income should not be taxed. However, the rule to tax business income and agricultural income will be looked after by CBDT, that is Central Board of Direct Taxes. Then CBDT comes forward and makes the rules, how to tax business income, how to tax agricultural income, okay, etc. Agricultural income is not taxed, but however, when both are combined together, how should we differentiate between both of them, etc., etc. This is just an example. There are so many places where CBDT makes the rules, okay, by which the act is carried out inside the country. You get my point? So that is income tax rules. Now let's come to circular and notification. What are circulars and what are notification? This is only the fourth component of the income tax law. Firstly, let us see circulars. Circulars are brought out by whom? Circulars are brought by CBDT. Circulars are brought by CBDT, that is Central Board of Direct Taxes, and it is brought out to clarify the doubts. Some people might be having doubts regarding the income tax law. To clarify the doubt, CBDT brings out circular, or even there might be some problem that the people might be facing. To solve those problems also, CBDT might bring circulars. Okay. However, did we elect CBDT? Answer is no. We have elected only the members of parliament. Okay. So whatever members of parliament have told us, that we are supposed to do. Okay. However, whatever CBDT has told separately, we need not follow it. Okay. We need not follow it. Hence, the circulars are binding only on CBDT. Only CBDT has to compulsorily follow its circulars, but it is not compulsory for the assessee. Sir, now this assessee means what? Kanna, we are going to learn the meaning of assessee in detail, but for now you understand that assessee means taxpayer. In Income Tax Act, the taxpayer is called assessee. Okay. Hence, if the circular is brought out by CBDT, CBDT has to compulsorily follow the circular. However, the assessee, that is the taxpayer, may or may not follow the circular. It depends on him. That is why assessee can take advantage of all the beneficial circulars. Okay. So hence, whatever circular is brought by CBDT, if the taxpayer feels that it is beneficial to them, then why not follow it? We can easily follow it. Okay. Example of circular also in the coming classes I am going to give you, so you will be able to understand better. Now let us see notification. What is a notification? Notification can be brought by central government as well as CBDT. Central government as well as CBDT both have the power to bring notification. Why will the central government bring notification? To implement any provision. To implement any provision. For example, so and so section will come into force from so and so date, etc. So to implement any provision, central government will bring notification. CBDT will make the notification to make or to amend the rules. To make or amend the rules. See, central government can pass the act through the parliament. However, does CBDT has a separate parliament? Answer is no. So how will it implement the rules? It will implement using the notification. You get my point? And notifications are binding on everybody. Means everyone, including CBDT as well as the taxpayer, everyone has to follow the notifications compulsorily. Okay. Here also you might ask that here's why should we follow CBDT's notification compulsorily, because we have not selected CBDT, correct? However, the act gives CBDT the power to make the rules. Okay, hence whatever rules that CBDT makes, the taxpayer has to compulsorily follow. You get my point? So now let us see the difference between circular and notification. Circular can be brought out by whom? CBDT. Notification can be brought out by central government as well as CBDT. Now, why are circulars brought out? To clarify the doubts. Why are notifications brought out? Central government brings notification to implement the provisions, okay, and CBDT brings out notification to make rules or to change those rules, okay. That is amend. Amend means what? Change. Next, circulars are binding only on the income tax department, okay. If the assessee wants to follow, he can follow. If the assessee does not want to follow, he need not follow. Hence, the assessee can take the advantage of just the beneficial circulars. However, if the assessee does not follow the circular, CBDT may come and fight with the assessee that you are wrong, you have to follow. Then both may go to court and then fight. Okay. Now, notification is binding on everybody. Everyone has to compulsorily follow the notification. You get my point? Now, so this was the fourth component of the income tax law. Now let's talk about the fifth component, about which I already gave you a small hint. Okay, that is fighting. Fighting between the income tax department and the assessee. So if there is any issue where income tax department and the assessee, that is CBDT and the assessee, or the central government and the assessee are not in terms with each other, then to clarify or to fight or to interpret, they can go to court. Okay, and there are different levels of judiciary. Okay, judiciary, decision by courts means what? Judiciary. Okay, firstly there is assessing officer. The assessee will argue with assessing officer. If he is not satisfied, then he can go to appeal. If assessee is not satisfied with appeal also, okay, then he can go to tribunal and fight over there, which is the next level. After the tribunal level comes the high court. After the high court level comes the Supreme Court. You get my point? This is the basic structure. There are even more intricacies involved, but however, you need not worry about all of this because it is not a part of your inter syllabus. All of this will be dealt only in CA final. So for now, what you should know is that decision by courts or the judiciary is also a part of the income tax law. How is it a part of income tax law? Let me tell you. If the assessee goes and fights in the Supreme Court, okay, assessee means whom? Taxpayer. If taxpayer and goes and fights in the Supreme Court and he wins the case, then that case will be applicable to entire India. The case will be applicable to entire India. Okay. Then if the taxpayer goes to a high court, okay, for example, Madras High Court is there in Tamil Nadu. If the taxpayer goes to high court and fights the case and he wins the case is not only applicable to him, it is applicable to entire Tamil Nadu or the entire state. You get my point? However, if it is in any court or any form of judiciary lower than the high court, then the case is only applicable to the relevant person who is fighting the case. You get my point? So if I am fighting with the income tax department, okay, and if I win the case, then entire India has won the case if I win the case in Supreme Court. You get my point? If I fight in High Court and if I win the case, then the entire state has won the case. Okay, if it if it is in the High Court, and if it is lower than High Court, then if I fight in a particular court, okay, and if I win the case, it is applicable only to me. It will not be applicable to any other person. You get my point? However, this decision by court's part or the judiciary, it is held in your applicable in your final level. In inter, you need not worry much about it. Okay. So in this video, we have in detail discussed about the various components of the income tax law. First and foremost, I told you that income tax law is not equal to the Income Tax Act. Income Tax Act is only a part of income tax law. However, it is a major part. Income Tax Act was brought in the Parliament in the year 1961 and it came into force from 1/4/1962. Okay. Now, to change this Income Tax Act every year, the government passes or the Parliament passes the Annual Finance Act, okay, which is introduced along with the budget. Now, Annual Finance Act amends the Income Tax Act. Amend means what? Change. It changes the Income Tax Act and it also gives the tax rate. Here if you see, I have not taught you this, the parts of Finance Act, okay. This portion I have not taught you because only after learning the other chapters, okay, you will be able to understand this part. So we will skip this for now. Later on when we will complete the chapter of TDS, tax rates, etc., I will come back and I will explain this to you. Okay. Now, so Annual Finance Act is passed. Why? It is passed to change the Income Tax Act as well as to bring the tax rates. However, can only the Annual Finance Act change the Income Tax Act? Answer is no. Income Tax Act can also be changed by using Taxation Laws Amendment Act. Okay. Then we spoke about income tax rules. Income tax rules are passed by whom? They are made by CBDT, that is Central Board of Direct Taxes, which we fondly call it as Income Tax Department. And CBDT passes the rules to carry out the purpose of the Act. Okay. Then we saw circular and notification. Circular is passed by CBDT. Notification can be passed by both CBDT as well as central government. Circular passed by CBDT to clarify the doubts or to solve some problems. Notification is passed by the central government to implement the provisions of the Act, and CBDT passes notification to make rules or to amend the rules. Okay. Then circulars are binding only on CBDT, not binding on assessee. Okay. Hence, assessee can take the benefit of the beneficial circulars, and notification is binding on everybody, the Income Tax Department as well as the taxpayer. Okay. Now, next component, which is the last one, is the judiciary. In the judiciary, we saw that there are various levels of judiciary, in which the top two levels are High Court and Supreme Court. So, if there is a case in High Court, okay, that case or the conclusion of the case will be applicable to the entire state. Or if there is a case in the Supreme Court, then the conclusion of the case will be applicable to the entire country. That is the relevance of High Court and Supreme Court case laws, which we will be dealing in final level. So these are the components of the income tax law. Okay. The next concept we will, okay, this one concept I think I forgot to tell you, that income tax rules also has various parts. Okay. Like sub rules, clauses, provisos and explanation. So in rules also there can be various parts. The parts are called sub rules, clauses, provisos and explanations. Fine. Similar to sections. I hope you are clear with the concept of the components of income tax law. The next concept we will discuss in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.